So we're here at the World Pokemon Championships with
Jason Klasinski. I'm the 2006 and 2008 Pokemon Card Game World Champion.
So before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We got Pokex Word. Use the link down in the description because that link directly helps support us at the Shuffle Squad. Pokex Word is the best place to get your fill of Pokemon-inspired puzzles. They post new ones every single day on their website. I myself have been getting pretty good at Guess That Pokemon, so I'm always posting my results to Twitter. So if you want to see how you do against me, you can go check us out. You can save yourself 12% on your order at Atlas Collectibles if you use the code TSS12 at the checkout. You can also go make your own custom playmat at yourplaymat.com and use the code TSS5YP to save yourself 5%. And lastly, we have PTCGO store where you can save yourself 5% on your Pokemon TCGO codes. All you gotta do is use code TSS5 at the checkout. So if you guys wouldn't mind doing me a huge favor and leave this video a big ol' thumbs up for me, as well as subscribe to the Shuffle Squad YouTube channel, and let me know in the comments. You can either let me know which one of these Gardevoir cards that we're gonna go over was your favorite, or how do you think that the Gardevoir EX is going to be in the new Scarlet and Violet set coming out March 31st of 2023? So let me know what you guys think and we'll go ahead and dive right in. So Gardevoir is a part of Generation 3, which is my favorite generation, which was the Ruby Sapphire games. It is a Stage 2 Pokemon. It evolves from Kirlia, and it is one of Ralts' final forms, the other being Gallade, which is a Psychic Fighting Pokemon. Gardevoir is a Psychic Fairy Pokemon, but actually when it was introduced in Gen 3 all the way through Gen 5, it was only classified as a Psychic Pokemon. It wasn't until Gen 6 that it became the dual-type Psychic Fairy. I actually had a lot of fun researching these cards and learning a little bit more about its history and impact on the Pokemon TCG, so I think you guys are going to like this. So we are going to be jumping all the way back 10 years ago to 2003 when the EX series came out. So we'll start with the Ruby and Sapphire set, which came out June 18th, 2003. This was the first Gardevoir card that was printed for Pokemon TCG. This Gardevoir is a Stage 2 Pokemon and it has the Poke Power, so if you're newer to Pokemon TCG, Poke Powers are basically just abilities. So this Gardevoir has the Poke Power Psi Power, and it reads, once during your turn, before your attack, you may search your deck for a Psychic Energy card and attach it to one of your Pokemon. Put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. This power can't be used if Gardevoir is affected by a special condition. So free energy attachment, always good. Can't ever complain about that. And it pairs really, really well with this Gardevoir's attack. The attack is Energy Burst, and for 1 Psychic Energy, this attack does 10 damage times the total amount of energy attached to Gardevoir and the defending Pokemon. So a fun little blurb about this Gardevoir is that 2 copies of this, along with 2 copies of the Gardevoir EX that was released in the Sandstorm set, which we'll get to next. Those were the faces of Kevin Nguyen's second place Team Rushdown deck for the 11 to 14 age division for 2004 Worlds. Yes, the very first Pokemon TCG Worlds, we have a deck that was made after Gardevoir. So that's pretty cool. Now moving on to the Sandstorm set that was released September 17th, 2003, we have Gardevoir EX. So the Pokemon EX mechanic was introduced in the EX series. This was a way to have a tankier Pokemon with a heavier attack, but now your opponent is taking 2 prizes when an EX is knocked out. So this Gardevoir EX has the attack feedback. For 1 Psychic, 1 Colorless. Count the number of cards in your opponent's hand, put that many damage counters on the defending Pokemon. So these 2 Gardevoirs pair together really well and was evidenced by Kevin Nguyen's second place finish at 2004 Worlds. Now we are still in the EX series, but we are fast forwarding a couple of years to the Emerald set, which was released May 9th, 2005. This Gardevoir has the Poke Power Heal Dance. Once during your turn, before your attack, you may remove 2 damage counters from one of your Pokemon. So this Poke Power specifically saying that you can't use more than 1 Heal Dance per turn, so it's not something that can stack. And again, can't be used if Gardevoir is affected by a special condition. Honestly, the attacks are kind of mid, so you can pause and read them if you really want to, but otherwise I'm just going to move right along. Okay, so now we're getting into the Delta species, which that set was released October 31st, 2005. So we've already seen the energy acceleration Gardevoir, we've already seen the healing Gardevoir, now we got the energy maneuver Gardevoir. So the Poke Power energy jump, once during your turn before you attack, you may move an energy card attached to one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. This power cannot be used if Gardevoir is affected by a special condition. The attack Psychic Rage is kind of a cool way to do a little bit of spread damage, but I really like the attack Black Magic. So for 1 Psychic, 2 Colorless, this attack does 10 damage plus 20 more damage times the number of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So we're gonna take a look at the first and only Fire-type Gardevoir that was printed, which came out in the set Dragon Frontiers, which was released on November 6th of 2006. So the reason why this Gardevoir is a fire Pokemon is because it is a Delta species. So if you're not familiar with Delta species, it basically are Pokemon that have a type that differs from their usual typing. So Gardevoir is not a fire type usually, so that's why that this Gardevoir EX Delta species is a fire type. So it has the Poke Power Imprison. Once before your turn, before you attack, if Gardevoir EX is your active Pokemon, you may put an Imprison marker on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Any Pokemon that has any Imprison markers on it can't use any Poke Powers or Poke Bodies. This power cannot be used if Gardevoir EX is affected by a special condition. So that's kind of insane, being able to specifically target your opponent's Pokemon and shutting off their abilities or their Poke Powers, Poke Bodies. I can't even imagine that in today's metagame. So that's really glad that that card is no longer around. Okay, now we are getting into some of the really, really cool cards that I'm really excited to talk about. So this one is, I think, the fan favorite. So if this one is your favorite, definitely let me know in the comments. But we are now moving into the Diamond and Pearl series. And the first Gardevoir that was printed in this series came out of the Secret Wonder set that was released on November 7th, 2007. So the Stage 2 Gardevoir that was printed has the Poke Power Telepass. Once during your turn before you attack, you may search your opponent's discard pile for a supporter card and use the effect of that card as the effect of this power. The supporter does remain in the opponent's discard pile, and you can't use more than 1 Telepass Poke Power each turn. And like a reoccurring theme, this power can't be used if Gardevoir is affected by a special condition. If you are unfamiliar with this card has so much history. This Gardevoir was used in the 2008 World Champion deck by Jason Klaczynski. If you guys don't know who he is basically like the best Pokemon player to have ever lived. He has won Worlds, I think 3 times, which he is to this date, I believe, the only person who has won a World Championships more than 1 time. So he used this Gardevoir along with the level X Gardevoir that I'll be talking about next for a Psychic Lock deck that of course won in 2008 Worlds. Kind of crazy, but anyways, moving on. So now we have the Gardevoir level X Pokemon. So a level up Pokemon has to evolve from a Gardevoir. So it's almost like a stage 3 sort of. You can't evolve it from a Curly. It has to be evolved from a Gardevoir, and it can use any attack, Poke Power, or Poke Body from its previous level. So this Gardevoir level X can also use the Telepass ability if wanted. But this Gardevoir has the Poke Power Teleportation. Once during your turn before your attack, choose one of your active Pokemon or one of your bench Pokemon and switch Gardevoir with that Pokemon. And of course, this power can't be used if Gardevoir is affected by a special condition. So the attack Bring Down for 2 Psychic Energies. You choose one Pokemon, either yours or your opponent's, with the fewest remaining HP, excluding Gardevoir, and that Pokemon is now knocked out. Not sure why you would want to choose your own to get knocked out. I'm sure there was like some reason why it was worded that way. If anyone knows, feel free to let me know. I tried to kind of find out why that attack was worded that way, and I couldn't really find anything when I was doing my research. So if anyone knows, let me know in the comments, please. So I do have to quickly share something that just happened to me because it is too funny to not share. As I'm recording this last segment, I accidentally hit start streaming instead of start recording on my OBS studios and started streaming for about 5 minutes on my personal channel before I realized what I had done. So I just had to share that funny moment. If you saw it, you get that memory forever. So now we are in the Platinum series of the Pokemon TCG, and this was the only Gardevoir printed in the entire series, and it came out of the base set of the series, the Platinum set, which was released on February 11th, 2009. This Gardevoir, a Stage 2, has the Poké Power Psychic Connect. As often as you'd like during your turn before your attack, you may move a Psychic Energy attached to one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. This power can't be used if Gardevoir is activated. Okay, so again, we kind of have like another energy burst like attack for one Psychic Energy. It does 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each energy attached to Gardevoir and the defending Pokemon. And the other attack is kind of mid, so we'll just move on. So we are now making our way to the Black and White series where we have 2 Gardevoirs that were printed. First one we will go over is the Gardevoir from Next Destinies, which was released on February 8th of 2012. We are no longer using Poké Powers, we are now using abilities. So this Stage 2 Gardevoir has the ability Psychic Mirage. So each basic Psychic Energy attached to your Psychic Pokemon provides 2 Psychic Energies. You can't apply more than one of those abilities at a time. So we will just briefly go over this Gardevoir from the set Legendary Treasures, which was released November 6th of 2013. So, Psybeam, okay, you're confused. Eternal Radiance for 2 Psychic Energies. You move all damage counters from this Pokemon to the defending Pokemon, and it can't use Eternal Radiance on your next turn. So, I hate to say there's not much to talk about with this Gardevoir, but I feel like this Gardevoir was just kind of like lost in the memories. Now we're moving on to the EX series. So there were quite a few Gardevoirs printed during this series. The first couple that we will go over is the Gardevoir EX and Mega Gardevoir EX. These both came out in the Primal Clash set, February 4th, 2015. Let's go over the Gardevoir EX. So as you can see, we are now dealing with a Fairy type Pokemon. So now Gardevoir is kind of being more embraced as the Fairy type because the Fairy type Pokemon did make their debut during the X and Y series. This attack, Life Leap, you can just heal the same amount of damage that you do, which is basically 20 damage, or you can do Shining Wind. So for 3 Fairy Energies, this attack does 100 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon has no weakness, so it's okay. It's okay. And something else that I want to mention too about this Gardevoir EX is that if you notice in the top left corner, it does not evolve from anything. This is a basic Pokemon. So this is kind of when the EX Pokemon started becoming more of a bulkier basic, almost kind of like what we see with the Vs today. So now you all of a sudden have a Gardevoir that's no longer a Stage 2 and it has the evolving attack, which is the Mega Evolution Mega Gardevoir EX. So the Mega EX Pokemon again made their debut in the X and Y series, and the Mega Evolution rule reads when one of your Pokemon becomes a Mega Evolution Pokemon, your turn ends. Attack Brilliant Aerial for 1 Fairy 2 colorless. This attack does 30 damage times the amount of Fairy Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. We do eventually go back to a Stage 2 Gardevoir in the Ancient Origins set, which was released August 12th of 2015. So this Stage 2 Gardevoir, which is Fairy type, has the ability Bright Heal. Once during your turn before your attack, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. Here we have the attack Telekinesis for 3 colorless energies. You basically do 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And so thank you to my friend Jake Mershon, shout out for helping me get some of this information, but there actually was a small break in bench barriers after Mr. Mime in 2013 and then again in 2016. So I'm not really sure if this card saw that much play around that time with that small area without the bench barrier, but I don't know, I'm sure somebody somewhere played this Gardevoir. We are going back to those bulkier basic EX Pokemon with this Gardevoir EX that was released in the Steam Siege set on August 3rd, 2016. So this Gardevoir EX has a couple of attacks, Link Blast, you guys can pause and read that one if you want. For 3 energies, 2 Fairy and a colorless. We're doing Luminous Blade, basically do damage, discard energy, so nothing too special about this, but it does have the evolution, the Mega Evolution. This Mega Gardevoir EX is actually kind of insane. I really enjoy the attack, the Despair Ray. 1 Fairy, 1 colorless. It does 110 base, plus you discard as many of your bench Pokemon as you like. It does 10 more damage for each bench Pokemon you discarded in this way. So I think that's really cool. Another feature about this card I want to point out, if you look in the top right at the typing, it's actually a dual type. So this is a Fairy and a Psychic dual type Pokemon card. So I can't believe that we are already to the Sun and Moon series. So we are introducing the GX cards. So the first Gardevoir that was printed in the Sun and Moon series was Gardevoir GX. It came out in Burning Shadows, which was released August 4th of 2017, and it has the ability Secret Spring. Once during your turn before your attack, you may attach a Fairy Energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. That's good. That's pretty good. Its attack for 1 fairy energy. It does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So if you're not familiar with the GX mechanic, it is very, very similar to the V-Stars because you have a GX power that you can only use once per game, kind of like how you can only use 1 V-Star power per game. The GX power for this Gardevoir is Twilight GX. You shuffle 10 cards from your discard pile into your deck. That never sounds like a bad idea. I mean, that is an insane GX power. Going back to a Stage 2 Gardevoir, this one came out of Lost Thunder, released on November 2nd of 2018. So it has the attack Brilliant Search. You can search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. So kind of like an interesting feature. I had to really, really dig up some information on this one. So this was, Jake definitely helped me out with this information, but there weren't really that many hand disruption cards in play. So N got reprinted in Fates Collide that came out in 2016. And this set was released in November 2018. So N was legal for like the first bit of the format and then rotated out. And Let Loose wasn't played until Team Up came out with Pikarom, which was February 2019. Let Loose is now banned in expanded format, but I'm not sure how much this card actually saw play back during this time. So I think that this one might be my personal favorite. If I could go back and play any of these formats, this would definitely be the one that I would want to play. So in Unbroken Bonds, which was released on May 3rd of 2019, we were introduced to the Gardevoir and Sylveon tag team. Its first attack for just 1 colorless energy, search your deck for up to 2 fairy energy cards and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. It's very similar to the Arceus V-Star archetype where you can just attach energies from your deck, but it is specifically for fairy Pokemon. And its attack Kaleidostorm, so you can do big damage and move energy around if you want to. And I thought this was really interesting, the GX power Magical Miracle. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra energy attached to it, which we all know the first attack Fairy Song is accelerating energies, your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck. So I guess the idea was you have one in the active that's kind of the energy accelerator, accelerating to one on the bench to a point to where you can get the Magical Miracle GX, and it also hits for 200 damage. So that's also pretty good. But something else that was kind of around this time, so I got to thank Dylan for this information, the Fairy Charm Ability Tool card. So this card reads, prevent all damage done to the fairy Pokemon this card is attached to by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX that have abilities. And also, if you're not familiar with the tag team cards, these are actually 3 prize cards when your opponent takes a knockout. Okay, that is wrapping it up for the Sun and Moon era, and we are now on to the Sword and Shield series. So now we have the V mechanic introduced to us starting in the Sword and Shield series, and we do get a Gardevoir V. This Gardevoir V was printed in Champion's Path on September 25th, 2020. So now we're kind of, in a weird era where we kind of transitioned into more of the online era back when COVID happened, March 2020. So this card never really saw in-person play. I think it did okay on a couple online events, but this card never got to really see the in-person play. I mean, with it currently right now still being legal, with it having about 2-ish more months in the format, I don't know if Gardevoir will ever unfortunately get the chance that I do think it once deserved. Nothing too much going on with this V here, honestly, but the V Max, which evolves from the V, Max Cure for 2 Psychic, 1 colorless, you do 180 damage, and you also heal 50 from this Pokemon. I mean, healing 50 a turn is pretty good, but this deck just really never saw any play. This card really never saw play, so I don't know, maybe someone will cook something up for the last 2 months we have of this format. On June 18th, 2021, we got the Chilling Rain set, which did include a new Stage 2 Gardevoir that has the ability Shining Arcana. Ruger likes this one. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy cards there you find to your Pokemon in any way you like. I feel like this card hasn't seen that much play yet, but I know that a lot of people are looking into it, kind of moving into the next format once we get Scarlet and Violet. And its attack isn't bad either. Brainwave for 3 colorless energies. It does 60 plus and adds 30 more damage for each energy attached to that Pokemon. But we will see if this card holds its value after the format changes. So now we get a look at our first Radiant Pokemons back in Astral Radiance when that set came out. We now get a Radiant Gardevoir coming out in Lost Origins, which was released on September 9th of 2022. Radiant Pokemon, if you're unfamiliar, you can only have 1 Radiant Pokemon in your deck. So this Radiant Gardevoir has the ability Loving Veil. All your Pokemon take 20 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon V. Its attack, 1 Psychic, 2 Colorless, Psychic, Classic. It does 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So now fast forward just a little bit, we're coming out with Silver Tempest, November 11th, 2022. We get another Stage 2 Gardevoir, and it seems like we're slowly just raising the HP. A lot of the Stage 2 Gardevoirs were 130, moving up to 140 in the last set, and now we're up to 150 HP, and we have the ability Refinement. So you must discard a card from your hand in order to use this ability, and then you get to draw 2 cards. So a really powerful, strong engine. I know the Stage 2 can kind of spook a few people away, but the format is going to slow down, and I know a lot of people are really hyping up this card looking into the next format. And I can't believe we are already here, but we are already to the Scarlet and Violet series. So there was a Gardevoir EX that was announced, and people are really excited because we get the return of these EX Pokemon, this EX mechanic. So the Scarlet and Violet base set is set to release on March 31st of this year, 2023. And just a forewarning, this is a Japanese translation, so it might not be a completely accurate translation once the set is released. This Gardevoir will have the ability Psy Embrace. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. If you do, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. It has an attack Miracle Force. It does 180 damage for 2 psychic, 1 colorless, and you heal all special conditions from this Pokemon. So like basically almost like halfway up to this point, you couldn't use Gardevoir's Poke Power if it was affected by a special condition. And now coming out in Scarlet and Violet, we can now finally heal the special conditions. So I thought that was kind of cute. But that is basically it for the history of the Gardevoir cards in the Pokemon TCG. So I really loved doing this. I really liked going back, looking at all the history. It really makes me want to get into more retro formats and kind of learn a little bit more about each set and kind of what was more popular to play. And it's really interesting. If you haven't done that already, I really highly recommend doing it. It kind of makes you appreciate the game a lot more. So I'm really hoping I can do a little bit more of these history lessons. So just let me know what you guys think. But until then, I will see you around.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Atlas Collectibles, the best place to buy any trading card game product online. Visit atlastcg.com and at the checkout screen, make sure to use code TSS12 to save an unbeatable 12% off your entire order. Atlas Collectibles will ship your product anywhere in the world, so make sure you're taking advantage of the 12% savings with TSS12. And if Pokemon is not your thing, don't worry. Go to atlastcg.com and see all the other amazing trading card game products they have there to offer.
The Shuffle Squad is partnered with PTCGO Store to provide our community with the best access to Pokemon TCG codes. They have codes available 24/7, instant email delivery, and you can save 5% off by using code TSS5. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you'll have access to a special code that gets you 10% off. So what are you waiting for? Use code TSS5 today and save 5% on your next order of codes on any codes available at ptcgostore.com.
Are you trying to be the best like no one ever was? Now is your time. Head on over to Metafy.gg and search out all our amazing Pokemon TCG coaches where you can book all sorts of training plans ranging from deck help to full season sessions with your favorite coach. What a great way to up your game. Check out Metafy.gg in the description below and take your game to the next level.
Poke Word, the best place to get your fill of Pokemon-inspired puzzles. New puzzles are posted every day, and they recently launched a new Guess That Pokemon puzzle, which is a ton of fun to play. Go check them out at PokeXWord.com and be sure to follow them on Twitter for your chance to win a ton of PTCGO codes every month.
Challenge yourself against trainers from around the world to compete for the biggest online prizing yet.
Are you ready for an unbelievable tournament unlike anything else you've ever seen before? The Shuffle Squad is proud to announce our newest tournament series, the Late Night Event, with an amazing grand prize that's bound to have you excited.
Players can compete via play.limitless.tcg.com's online tournament platform every Tuesday to get a chance to earn weekly prizes. And every week, your placement in the tournament is tallied by points based on your best finishes to earn your rank for the Late Night Invitational event.
The series will be conducted starting February 7th of 2023 and carry all the way through to the Invitational on July 9th of 2023, where the top players will be rewarded the grand prizing.
And the grand prize is a signed jersey and photo op with the entire Shuffle Squad, as well as a fully paid trip to the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. This includes hotel and airfare, whether you're a player or a spectator.
Don't forget to check out all the live coverage on our YouTube and Twitch channel of the top cuts of these events for every week. And subscribe so you can get notified where to watch the Late Night Events Invitational brought to you by the Shuffle Squad. Now get out there and start winning. We'll see you in Japan.